Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, whichever way you are watching us and whatever time of day you are watching the Victory Roll Wrestling Podcast. I am the one and only storyteller, Alex Braddock. Joining me today is Dylan Gilbert. Dylan, how's it going, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I am Dylan Gilbert, the tallest guy you will see at any 225 show at an official height of 6'12" if we go by roster sizes. Sorry I had to put it out there. But
It
yeah,
beats my 5'7", so it's okay.
I'm
It
the
beats my
biggest mark you
5'7".
know. And man,
Absolutely.
I'm excited we're doing this. We've talked about this for a while. I'm glad we're finally making it happen.
It has been a long time coming. And essentially what we're doing, this is episode 0. So we are just going to be talking about Wrestling World, and in the future we're going to be doing wrestling watch-alongs, watching my favorite matches, some of my own matches, and hopefully having guests on where we can watch some of their own and get their comments and their behind the scenes of it all. But I guess we should just start it off. Dylan, what's been happening this week?
Man, we're in one of those fun times of the year. Like obviously Raw has been killing with the whole Wyatt Six storyline we've got going on right now.
Yeah.
I I don't know, man. This I've heard a lot of the discourse about like, do you think this is just them trying to cash in off the legacy, and then that promo that I'm assuming we're still calling him Bo Dallas because we haven't heard a new name, but that promo felt like that was Taylor Rotunda, talking to every single Twitter hater.
Which is nuts.
It made my arm hairs stand up. Like for a wrestling promo to at this point, because I'm so desensitized to like crazy promos and crazy anything, dude, it's special.
Oh yeah, and just having those cinematic pieces of wrestling inserted into a company that we never thought we would see cinematic
Yeah,
ever is nuts. But I guess we can just run down the list.
yeah. Let's run down.
Monday Night Raw. We had short matches between Braun Breaker, Ludwig Kaiser. Thoughts on Braun Breaker? Go ahead, hit me.
Oh man, so I'm gonna have the unpopular opinion right now because I've said this to a few people. I think he's got a great look, but he just doesn't like something about him doesn't click for me. I think I wasn't a Goldberg guy, and he is very much like he is Goldberg for this generation, and he's great
Yeah.
at it. It's just not the thing I like.
It's
But
unpopular opinion for me as well. I just don't. It doesn't click for me. I don't know what it is. He's a big, strong dude. I've seen him work. He's phenomenal at what he does. He learned from his dad. He learns from everybody in NXT. But there's just
dude, everything he hits is pretty crisp. Like the Rumble looked really bad, and maybe I can't shake that because like he had that weird appearance in the Rumble where he wasn't like there was all the backstage stuff and he wasn't supposed to be there, and I think he came in to fill a spot
yep,
like last second.
yep.
And so maybe that just left a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't know, I'm not a massive fan of the like big guy hits 3 moves go home. Um, but I mean everything he does for the most part is crisp. I don't know why he doesn't click for me.
Yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. The dude's got some power,
He
but
dude, the
you
ring
can only have
shifts
so
when he
correct.
runs. Like the ring
Like the
shifts.
old, like it Stand and Deliver, I think it was when he was tagging with Baron Corbin. The ring literally moved before he hit Axiom with a move. Like
Yeah,
he's got the power. He's insane. It's just how long can you not keep power controlled, or how long can you keep controlled power?
yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, I am a wrestler, but I don't know. He's clearly done something to get it into the big, WWE. But we'll see.
I'm still just bitter that they didn't go with his God-given Christian government shoot, whatever term you want to use, name is Rex Steiner. That is so much cooler of a name than
It
Braun
works.
Breaker. It's
Look,
so much cooler.
I think it's just a little disassociation. That's all it needs. It's the Charlie Dempsey Association.
Yep.
Charlie Dempsey versus William Regal. If you throw Regal on there, he's just daddy's boy.
And
Versus if you have Charlie Dempsey,
Charlie
phenomenal
Dempsey's
technique.
doing a great job of like doing the kind of the style his dad was famous for, but not just being like a nostalgia act. Like Charlie Dempsey's been kicking ass.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, next on Raw, we had Lyra Valkyria, Shayna Baszler, and Kairi Sane Money in the Bank qualifying match with Valkyria picking up the win. I think a solid addition.
I think so.
Valkyria was kind of going back and forth for what she was coming up with Raw. I think throwing her into the Money in the Bank situation, along with everyone else that's in there, that I don't have in front of me immediately, and I'm not a research technician, so don't at me for that. But Valkyria being added to that match just makes me want to watch it more. She's a solid talent. I didn't understand her at first, and then she beat Becky in a solid match.
Yeah.
So I think she's got what it takes.
I agree with you. I think since she's come to Raw, I've really because I have not been watching NXT near as much. Like I think 2.0 kind of ran me off. But just seeing what she's done since she's hit main roster, man, she's rock solid. She strikes me as like she could be another Becky, and maybe not like carbon copy, but like one of those people that when they come in and like they're the pick, you're like, seriously, that's the pick, and 5 years from now she's one of the biggest names in the company.
Yeah.
Just that like underdog, she's got something that you just can't quite put a finger on, but she's got it.
And if I can rant for a minute, I'm a huge mythology nerd. So the
Yep.
fact that she's literally the Morrigan from like Irish mythology blew my mind the first time that I heard about it, because you don't think about those things when you're coming up with a gimmick or whatever else. So when she was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm essentially the Raven Morrigan in Irish mythology," I'm like, okay, like sure, that works, because you're literally like the one that walks the world tree, whatever else. So um if I can talk for a minute, the next thing on Raw was a Liv Morgan, Zelina Vega, and Dominic Mysterio segment. Dude, the stuff that first off is going on with Judgment Day, phenomenal.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then Liv Morgan, like
Yes.
yeah, we're just gonna leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. That's fine.
PG program, brother.
Correct. PG-13. We're still playing with it.
Fair.
Playing with it.
But no, I mean, I do think that when Ripley left with she got injured with a critical case of getting married. Some might say near lethal. I was kind of like, well, what are you gonna do with Dominic? And what they've done with like sliding Liv Morgan into this was so natural.
It works.
It works so well. And my favorite part of that segment is when they're all in the ring together, when Liv talks, when Zelina talks, the crowd's listening. Dominic, you hear the boot just boo.
As soon as he goes to open his mouth.
Boo. Like as that microphone comes, the crowd just gets louder and louder.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. They have that audience so captive. It is so good.
The transformation from Little Dom that was teaming with Rey Mysterio in the pandemic era to heel freaking heat Dominic Mysterio in the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
Like I do not think the Judgment Day would be as hot heel wise as he is without Dominic Mysterio inside.
No, man, he really did bring something to it that it needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that
then when
go ahead.
He leaned into the whole like, all of us wrestling nerds are the ones sitting back on like, well, yeah, his real dad's Eddie Guerrero. It became like the internet meme. Well, then all of a sudden he's got the pencil mustache and he's got the long hair and he's really leaning into trying to look like Eddie. So the people that know are like, oh, this son of a bitch is really distancing himself from his father that much to even play off that old storyline of Eddie being his dad. It's like, man, it's perfect. Like he's playing the little pieces of this thing to perfection.
Absolutely.
Like there's so much attention in this storyline, and it shows. Like they're getting the reactions, and it's amazing.
They're getting what they want, and it's phenomenal. Going back to the whole Liv Morgan thing for just a second, it almost blends perfectly. Yes, she's kind of doing the whole thing with Zelina for Money in the Bank, but she's doing enough with Dom that as soon as Rhea gets back, it is just it's going to happen immediately.
People were calling for that match 2 weeks into Rhea being out. So by the time that it finally comes around, it is going to be so hot. Like it's so good.
We are a week away from Money in the Bank? I don't know exactly. We are recording on a Saturday night. That is June 29th. I believe Money in the Bank is next Saturday or Sunday.
I'm going to look it up right now.
10-4. Um, so there is potential that we don't know the whole situation with Rhea. She could actually be injured and under rehab, but with things that have been being posted, Rhea and Buddy, we love you.
I know. I'm so
But
happy for him.
it does look like she's injured with the case of getting married. And if that's the case, then so be it. Whatever. Life is life. I'm glad you took time off to get married.
Yeah.
But if things do shape out, it looks like we could be looking at a Rhea versus Liv at SummerSlam.
July 6th is Money in the Bank. So yeah,
next weekend.
we are next weekend.
Okay.
Off mic, we got to make our plans for that one.
Yes, absolutely, and
we'll figure something out.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think you're right. I think we could see this feud go to SummerSlam, and I think it would be massive.
Absolutely, even if it's literally Rhea showing up the week before SummerSlam.
Because that is not a B pay-per-view match. Like that's one of those ones you put on a big stage.
Absolutely.
And the only other bigger stage is Mania.
Who knows? We may see ladder match custody of Dominic Mysterio. But that's
look, we need another custody of Dominic match.
But anyway, next on the card was Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, and Chad Gable, who we thought we would not be seeing Chad Gable after the Wyatt 6 attack. We thought we were going to get Ilya Dragunov in the match.
I would have loved that.
Chad Gable is still standing full and tall. I'm loving everything they're doing with Chad Gable in the Wyatt 6. Sure, he may not be the guy that he's feuding with, or maybe that's the guy that they're targeting because it is what it is, storytelling at its finest. But I love the paranoia of Chad, where he's like, I need help. He shows up to the Alpha Academy, and they say, we're done. And then the Creed brothers are right behind him going, hey, we're here to help if you need it.
Which, that was a perfect pickup. Just him getting the Creed brothers behind him, that fits so well.
Oh yeah, the technicality in amateur wrestling of Chad Gable and the Creed brothers, it matches perfectly. Of course, you had Otis and Akira Tozawa, like those two are styles perfectly.
Well, and then pairing in with Maxine, like Maxine being still so new to wrestling, putting her in that storyline where they're like literally they are teaching her how to be great. Like it was really fun, and now that we've got this heel turn, I think like if you're going to keep doing like an Alpha Academy, the Creed brothers are the perfect, like the perfect team for this new incarnation of. Correct. It may keep the Alpha Academy name or not, but they're this new incarnation of whatever it is Gable's doing.
We had Chad Gable pick up the win, qualifying for Money in the Bank. Do you see Chad taking it?
So. If we're fantasy booking, I'll keep it short. I either say he doesn't win it or he is about to win it and lights go out. And it's something with the Wyatts because it is very obvious that the Wyatt 6 have him in the crosshairs, at least right now. It looked like week 1 almost literally because he had that blood spot on his head and then he had the spray behind him and it's like, did they shoot him?
Yeah,
what happened there? Triple
H had to go on Twitter and be like, no, he's not dead. He's still fully alive. We just saw him today.
I love that he came out with the head still bandaged up and everything. It's like that was good. But I mean that after the match, Nikki Cross coming out, or we're assuming it's Nikki Cross. It's one of the 6, doing like the ring crawl, the smoke going off, handing over the box to Cole.
I don't do it.
I don't
do ring girl. I don't do horror, man.
Oh, that's my game.
Something about me loves the Wyatt 6, and yet when I see who we think is Nikki Cross crawling across the ring and stage in ring girl fashion, nope, I don't do it. Sorry, I'm out.
There was something about the way that like when the camera cut over to Michael Cole and she presents the box to him, the security guards that were very obviously placed to the left and right for that show, you almost never see the security guards. They put them in shot so this moment could happen. Right. And so when they cut back, Cole is standing by himself, and those security guards are laid across the table. You never saw anyone else. And I think that adds to that like horror mystique of the Wyatt 6. Like the lights go down, and the implication is that these monsters knocked these guys out and disappeared. in like 5 seconds worth of time,
Right.
and then she crawls across and scares Gable out, and it's like, man, it makes me feel like a kid watching The Undertaker again,
Yes.
because like when
Just
you
we
watch,
actually we have actual horror
yes,
inside of wrestling again.
when you watch like we watch a bunch of I'm gonna say older matches, not like necessarily old matches, but we're watching like Taker's debut at work a couple months back, and it was that SummerSlam match against Hogan. He has done nothing. This is before the lightning, this is before any of it. He just has the funeral procession and the look, and kids are crying in the
Yes.
front row, crying and
Yes.
terrified of the Undertaker.
Right.
And if you see kids in the crowd when the Wyatts are doing this thing, like even this generation that's desensitized because they're seeing horror movies at 6,
Right.
these kids are still like, oh my god, what is this?
Right.
You're doing something special.
Absolutely.
You're doing something, man.
Absolutely. If we can talk for a minute, Pat McAfee was nowhere to be seen. Or not Adam Cole, Michael Cole, and yeah, that's a mess up. That's a botch.
Baby.
Michael Cole and The Miz for a little bit, right? I didn't watch the entire Monday Night
Mm-hmm.
Raw, but The Miz was on commentary for a small amount of time. I'm not here to talk about The Miz and his performance. I'm sure he did a great job.
He was trying to be McAfee, but he was not bad.
Yeah. What do you think happened to Pat?
So I actually know what happened. If we're peeling that curtain back,
Peel him back a little bit.
he said the next day on his show that he literally they were in Indianapolis. Like
Mhm.
he was filming his show and he was gonna just like make the trek across and go do Raw. Uh, his I think it was his father-in-law passed away. Like he films the like end of the Pat McAfee show. His wife is calling him as the show is ending. He gets to the hospital, gets to be there for like his father-in-law's like last moments, basically. So he was with the family, but we don't know that going into Raw. And one
Right.
of the episodes of the McAfee show last week, they did the Wyatt pew at the end of the
Yeah.
show.
Everything shut down. Yeah.
So the implication was that like, and I think if we're keeping this just to like the storylines of
We're
Raw,
pushing the curtain back over,
we're
right?
we're,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
closing
Yeah.
the curtain back again. So if you don't want to hear the
Right. Skip to
non-working,
this time if you
yeah,
want.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I think for like they did a great job with the storytelling of it all, of having like the present the tape to Pat McAfee and everything like that, like the implication that like they're going after him also, and I think they crushed that.
Oh, phenomenal! It was great.
And again, we touched on it earlier, but that promo to anybody that was saying like you're just trying to capitalize off of the loss of with Wyndham Bray. That promo I'm saying Taylor because that did not feel like Bo Dallas at all.
It
Talking
was
about
it was
like
Howdy and Taylor. It was not Bo. There is nothing to Bo leave in at that moment
no,
in time, other than the fact that this dude is demented and deranged.
when he said like he's not here and nobody feels that hurt worse than me. That is a man that like they were about to have that moment. They were finally getting to have that moment where they were working together, and it got taken away.
Yep.
And not only did them working together get taken away, but his brother was taken away.
Yeah.
And he brought that in such a real, like, man, I get arm hair standing up thinking about it now. Like that is how you blend reality and storyline to perfection. Like
Absolutely.
to perfection.
Absolutely. Um. Well, after all the Chad Gable stuff, we have a match between Alba Fire, Isla Dawn versus Katana Chance. I keep forgetting her name, and Caden Carter.
Casey
Um,
Catanzaro.
correct. And she will always be Casey Catanzaro to me. But like I said, I didn't watch most of Raw. I caught bits and pieces of it.
Yep.
It's been a busy week for me. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn pick it up. Current women's tag team champions. I think it just made sense. I've Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are coming on strong. I remember when Alba Fire was Kaylee Ray, and not only in NXT UK but in ICW on the
Yep.
Indies,
Yep.
and watching her do street fights. Like, does it for me? Does it suck that she is in the tag team picture? Yes, because I know that she could be contending for women's heavyweight championship.
Oh yeah.
I fully believe that in a couple of years you will be seeing Alba Fire in the women's title match contendership.
Oh, 100%.
But as of right now, you've got to work with what you're given, and I think they're doing a great job at it. With Isla Dawn being the whole witchy thing, she's phenomenal. Alba Fire kind of being alongside her as her, enforcer Brutus kind of thing. I love it.
Yeah, man. I think the exact way that you're feeling about this, I feel kind of the same way because we both love the Brit Rest stuff. And I've got another. We'll touch later in the Monday Night Raw card about it because I've got somebody I feel the exact same way about that we will get to, and I think but that's a tease. Keep listening. So, was the next thing the R-Truth Liv Morgan? Because I think that's what I remember from Raw. Because
I do not see it. R-Truth Liv Morgan, and I did not see it. So tell me about it.
There was a promo backstage where Truth has been doing this thing, and it was I think it was part of how they got. It might have happened earlier in the show, but they got Miz. That's how they got Miz to leave. Commentary was R-Truth is just giving away title defenses like candy. Anybody that comes up and has a convincing enough argument is like, you know what? You're right. You should have a shot at my titles. And so let Liv Morgan playing the whole like, I just really want to do something nice for Dominic and the Judgment Day. And R-Truth's like, you know what? I love love. I think you guys should have that. I'll give him a title defense right now. And Miz is on commentary, freaks out, runs to the back to try to stop him, which leads to the tag
title match.
Tag title match.
Yep. Okay.
Which I thought was a fantastic match. Is that next on the card? Am I skipping ahead?
Not quite. You are skipping ahead just a little bit. We had a segment between Damian Priest, Seth Rollins, and Gunther, which just sets up the whole Seth Rollins versus Damian match at Money in the Bank next weekend. With Gunther, who is going to be challenging the winner of that match for SummerSlam.
Which give me Gunther versus either of those two at SummerSlam. You got 5 stars. You got 5 stars guaranteed.
We have the next match being Karrion Kross versus Kofi Kingston. Karrion picks up the win as he held up as he's walking out. That is 7.
Yep.
That is 7 world title champions
that
have held the title before that he has beaten. I know Karrion. I love Karrion. He was a beast in NXT. I think in Triple H's era of WWE, he could become a beast again. And he's slowly becoming that again. I don't have much more than that. I'm
seeing shades of Killer Kross come back. Like,
absolutely.
That NXT run was essentially Killer Kross. They brought him up, and then it was one of those things you could tell that, like, in the McMahon era, they didn't quite know what to do with him. And I mean, the dude, his look is perfect. Having Scarlett with him, she's freaking perfect. Like, they have such a great thing going. Yeah. I'm glad they're finally using it properly and not sending him out there in the stupid space cowboy bandito thing that he went out and killed his push.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius. I am a gladiator from Fire. Yeah, that stuff. Yeah.
It was so bad.
Sure, it was bad. And I'm glad that he got away from that and kind of, fixed himself on the indies. And I'm happy he was signed back and he's doing this. I never saw him teaming up with AOP.
No,
when
not
they
at
came
all.
out, it worked. Especially with Paul Ellering behind him, it worked.
Yes.
But then the last thing that we had was JD McDonough and Finn Balor versus R-Truth and The Miz, with JD and Finn Balor being your new WWE Tag Team Champions.
So, the way that you feel about Kaylee Ray is the way that I feel about Jordan Devlin. And it was the way I was feeling about Pete Dunne for a little bit, and they finally starting to rectify that. Thank God. Yep. But I mean, it's if you continue listening to this show, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the Brit Rest scene.
Absolutely.
Jordan Devlin holds, which it sucks because like the other person in the match wound up being a real scumbag. But Jordan Devlin holds probably like if I were to say like Mount Rushmore of wrestling matches, it's Devlin versus David Starr at OTT.
Absolutely.
Was it OTT's who
Their
was the show?
anniversary show.
It's the anniversary
Right
show.
before COVID hit.
It was right before COVID hit, and I think it is like it is
It's
not a spot fest. It is a damn near perfect wrestling match.
full-heartedly, it is the match that got me into wrestling. It is the match that made me go to training and become a professional wrestler.
It,
And it
it
sucks that David Starr is a phenomenal wrestler and Max Barsky is a scumbag.
Yep, 100%.
Um,
But
but we won't talk about
you watch that match and you can see a dude that freaking gets it. I mean, he is a hell of a wrestler. He knows how to work the crowd well. Everything he's doing is crisp, it's clean, and like he's one of those guys that I look at and it's like he could be contending for the top title, but all anyone talks about is, oh, he's that big-headed guy from the Judgment Day, and it's just like, what? Are you like you don't even see the crazy potential that this dude has because like he was putting bangers on with like the cruiserweight division in NXT,
it. Absolutely.
and it's one of
He's a
those
solid
things that
talent,
like
dude.
I'm happy as hell that he's making his money and that he's on like people know his name.
Yeah.
I just hope that this kind of turns the corner into like Pete Dunne becoming Butch being that like disappointment to
Yeah.
Butch becoming Pete Dunne again and just the like let him rip. Like
Yeah.
put him and Bate back together and just send them.
I think what it'll turn into, and this is all fantasy booking,
Of
but
course.
Damian versus Finn, bound to happen.
Yeah.
And then Finn versus JD.
Which would be unfreaking real.
Finn literally trained JD.
Yep.
Jordan Devlin. I would love to see the match. They put on a phenomenal match at NXT UK a couple of years back before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
They could put on an absolute banger if given the time. But that was it for Raw. Now, I didn't watch NXT. Did you watch NXT?
Did not.
Okay, cool. So we're just going to lightning round this. Main event was Trick Williams versus Shawn Spears, with Shawn Spears taking it. It's looking like we're setting up a Shawn Spears, Ethan Page, Trick Williams, and unfortunately, I forget the name of the other guy. He's another high-fly kind of guy that I've already forgotten the name of. But it looks like we're setting up a. Oh, we are. Hold on. Javon Evans. I see it on my.
Yep. I didn't know who he was.
Javon Evans, Ethan Page, Shawn Spears, and Trick Williams in a fatal four-way match at NXT Heatwave. I love Shawn. I love Ethan.
Yeah.
I haven't watched a whole lot of Trick, but from what I'm seeing, he's a phenomenal worker.
He's over as hell in NXT right now.
You want to see? So I'd love to see it, but unfortunately, I haven't been paying attention to NXT, so I don't really have a lot of insight. I know a lot of talent there is phenomenal. They're pulling in TNA. They're doing the whole shtick. Maybe next week on the next episode, we'll have a little more insight into NXT. But
maybe we'll split off. I'll take TNA, you take NXT. Because I need to catch up on what my boy Brian Myers been doing. I know he's tag champion, so like he's a tag champ, and I love that. But you know,
with
Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards, yep.
Eddie Edwards of the System, and Moose is the world. So like the System is running TNA right now. And I did not think I would see that when Kurt Hawkins got released, and I was mad that my one of my favorite wrestlers from my favorite podcast just got sent on.
I mean, but at the same time, if we're talking about Brian Myers, we're talking about Matt Cardona. Like
those two dudes are running shit in their respective worlds.
The independent scene.
I mean, look, I'm sitting here drinking out of the Brian Myers koozie right now.
It's because you're
big
the biggest
major
mark that everyone will ever see.
Oh, dude, 100%.
So that was NXT. Moving on.
Yes.
We're switching sides of.
We're going to the other side of the
weekly wrestling worlds. Whatever.
We're in my world now, baby.
We're in Wednesdays. I watched the back half of the show. I did not watch the front. Front half, BCC, the Blackpool Combat Club versus LIJ, Los Ingobernables David Cup.
So much fun, dude. I'm excited to see like Shingo coming in for the Owen Hart and we're gonna get Shingo versus Danielson at Forbidden Door. That
which
match is gonna
which we
slap, dude.
we are going to talk about later.
Oh, we
We will
100%
talk
will.
about later.
But I was really, really excited to see Hiromu Takahashi on American television
Oh yeah,
because that dude is. I think this is
it's
like
nuts.
peeling back the wrestling memories. This is like I think maybe 2018, 2019. It was Wrestle
The
Kingdom.
first Wrestle Kingdom that me and you watched together. This is the
Yes.
first time that me and you had watched an actual wrestling show together. We decided to say screw it. And instead of watching a WWE show, we went and watched a New Japan Wrestle Kingdom. It was the
Which
Wrestle Kingdom that Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho fought each other for
yes,
the U.S. title.
yes, it was the U.S.
Yeah,
title.
which it was also a fatal four-way for the junior heavyweight title. Will Ospreay,
Uh,
um,
Kushida,
Kushida.
Hiromu Takahashi, and I am drawing a blank on the fourth. But I remember Osprey cutting like a moonsault off of like the scaffolding and everything. Like
Yes,
it was
and
a
I remember
banger.
Jericho going on his podcast afterwards and being like, "Will Ospreay stole our spot." Blah, 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 blah. It was just that's the only thing that I remember because it was like 7 years ago.
But
Um,
that was the match that made me a fan of Hiromu Takahashi.
yes,
And so to see him like anytime like the New Japan talents pop up on AEW, man, it just makes me so happy
oh yeah,
because like that was from like my era, like that Bullet
right,
Club when Bullet Club was really firing
yep,
up to like the Jay White era is kind of like that's my New Japan era, and I'm still kind of paying attention now. I've watched some strong shows here and there. I'll catch G1 matches, but like that something about that like 15 to like 2021 was just
yeah,
special.
oh
And
yeah,
so seeing all those, I mean, see like Okada's all elite now, Osprey's all elite now. Suzuki might as well be. Uh,
yeah. At this point, like
Ishii
he
coming
does his
in, like
one-offs.
we're just man, this is
Forbidden
such a cool
Door is
time.
a crazy time, which, like I said, we'll talk about later. We'll kind of do a prediction thing later
I
in the
I
episode.
told my wife watching the shows like I think that Forbidden Door season is one of my favorite times of the year because it's those moments that like that make me go from like laid back on the couch to standing up right like oh my god we've got such and such coming in.
Correct, absolutely.
Zack
Um,
Saber Jr. versus freaking Orange Cassidy. I'm like,
who would have
what is
thought it?
this?
We had Danielson versus Saber last year in a
Yeah,
phenomenal technical match, which a lot of people hated because it was just technical wrestling. But I loved it. I'm a technical guy. I can appreciate it.
look, man,
Um,
if you're gonna love this sport, man, there's
correct.
technical. There's gonna be your violent matches. There's gonna be high fly. There's gonna be strong style. There's gonna be comedy. There is something for everybody.
You need it all.
But you should at least respect it all, man. Like it,
Absolutely.
and that's one of those matches that was a technical masterpiece.
Absolutely. Um, Match number two, we'll kind of start making it a little quicker. Phoenix versus Jay White with Penta and the Bang Bang Gang all outside the ring, quarterfinals for the Owen Hart Cup. I know we're excited for Shingo versus Danielson this weekend, but how was this match? I didn't get to watch it. If it's
So man,
Phoenix,
it's fun, man. Like Phoenix is one of those guys that can kind of go like some of his matches are fantastic. Some of them can like the match he had with Moxley where like it can go off the rails very easily. But when he's in there with somebody that he has a chemistry with, like they really just burn it down. And him and Jay really burn that thing down. Like I loved the Juice Robinson being back is one of my favorite things in the world.
oh yeah,
So everybody getting ejected from ringside in the first minute, and I think that I don't know how good of a job they do at explaining this, but a lot of these tournaments it is everyone is banned from ringside. So
mm,
literally everybody bringing their posses down to the ring and immediately getting kicked out was just a perfect comedy spot. And then once you kind of got that out of the way, that was just a really fun match.
I still to this day remember when Jay White hit Kenny Omega with a switchblade for the first time. Like,
When he put the Bullet Club shirt on
yep. And then
and
immediately hit him with a switchblade.
Kitty throws the two sweets up, turns around, Blade Runner, and I just remember going, I don't know who the hell this kid is, but he's going to be a freaking star.
Correct.
And here we are, man. He was one of those signings when he came over to the AEW. I lost it. I was like, so ready.
Um, We got Mina Shirakawa, Tony Storm, and Mariah May versus the Outcasts, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, Paige.
Soraya,
Anna
yes, it was
Jay,
Soraya, Harley
Rhea,
Cameron, and Anna Jay, which is
it's
a match
I
that when it got announced, I got a message about.
okay.
Uh,
Look, you have a Shorzy jersey behind you. If I can quote Letterkenny for a minute, just like
literally,
it's literally that match.
I told my wife she was the one that sent me the match graphic and said, sure you saw this and you're excited about it." And I said, "I
I mean,
apologize now if I make out of pocket comments for that
as
15 minutes."
we got the Liv Morgan on WWE. They had to make up for it some way or another on Dynamite, and this is how they made up for it. I
I,
mean,
I'm just gonna go ahead and say this now. I think that Tony Storm versus Mina Shirakawa is going to be one of the hardest hitting matches, and also probably one of the horniest matches in professional wrestling history, because they have both really leaned into that side of things. And I have zero doubt in my mind that both of those women can absolutely go.
yep,
They are going to beat the holy hell out of each other. But the comedy spots with parts of their
abs-
anatomy in each other's faces are going to be hilarious.
absolutely.
And it's going to
Um,
be just the perfect breakup of them just bashing each other in the head repeatedly.
oh yeah,
It's going to be a
absolutely.
war.
It's gonna be great. It is literally Stardom on pay per view.
It's Stardom on American pay-per-view.
If you don't know Stardom, Japanese Joshi wrestling, women's wrestling, go check it out.
It's a lot of small
Phenomenal
Japanese
people.
women beating the bejesus out of each other.
Blair Davenport, who used to be B. Priestley, who we loved from the UK scene, went to Stardom, became B. Priestley, and then went to NXT UK, NXT, SmackDown, and became Blair Davenport.
Yep.
Phenomenal work there. But going back to Dynamite, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kyle O'Reilly. I need to go back and watch this because I'm a fan of both of them.
Dude, it was great.
Okay.
It
Like,
is
I
one of
think I
those
caught
when
it like at the very end when they started doing the shenanigans with Orange Cassidy and all of that stuff.
we had screw you Cox Communications. I almost said the F word, I didn't.
Good.
Uh our Wi-Fi dropped, like the
Uh,
bell rings, drops. And I was just like yelling at my TV because we stream through Hulu Live. Please give me a sponsorship. But it goes down. The internet goes down, and I reset the router. It pops back up, and thank God Hulu Live, because I do like the DVR function, saved where we were, and so we just started the match and let it ride. Man, that's everything I hoped it would be, because like Kyle O'Reilly's good at. He's got some of the technical background, but he's also got that kickboxing background. And you put him in there with ZSJ, who's trying to counter the strikes by grappling,
yep.
and it felt like the pro wrestling version of an MMA fight, and not in like the cheesy Raw Underground kind of way, but almost like GCW Bloodsport, where
Yeah.
it really felt like these two guys were like trying to take each other's heads off. And it was just, man, like this is my
To
style
each
of
their
wrestling.
own with that kind of stuff, but that is essentially what wrestling used to be back in the old days.
Yes.
Like it started as amateur wrestling in a squared ring, and then it kind of got the hey, we're gonna kind of show, like we're gonna do showy stuff. And then so the fact that the world is turning back to this kind of hard hitting grappling style, is
Dude,
great. There's a side for everything.
Kyle O'Reilly's axe kicks are one of the best moves in wrestling to me, because he sets it up well. He does a great job of like having a legitimate like flurry of strikes that gets somebody to double over. And when he picks that heel up and just brings the point of that heel down to the back of the head, that could be a finishing move.
Absolutely.
Because he lands so clean. His strikes are so crisp.
And essentially, it's his Blue Thunder Bomb. If we can rant for a minute.
Oh man, I was wondering when we were getting to this.
So here on the podcast, we're going to start a little thing that we like to call "Everyone Has a Blue Thunder Bomb." if you think about it, and as much as we both love Sami Zayn and we love his old gimmick, though he,
his very close friend,
his very close friend that went back to Mexico to help the orphans, El Generico.
Ole.
They have a move called a Blue Thunder Bomb, which we are still convinced to this day has not won Sami Zayn a match. Therefore, everyone has a Blue Thunder Bomb. Everyone has a move that looks devastating enough that it could finish a match and have the 1, 2, 3 counted, but the 3 is never counted.
So think like Sami Zayn's Blue Thunder Bomb, Seth Rollins with the Superplex Falcon Arrow combo.
Yes.
That could be a finishing move in anybody else's moveset, but for some reason when Seth Rollins hits that, it's a superplex, rolls through Falcon Arrow. That is devastating.
So if we ever get to the point
1, 2, shoulder.
If we're ever talking about a match and we talk about a certain move and we call it a Blue Thunder Bomb, that's what we mean. Because we here at Victory Roll think that everyone has a Blue Thunder Bomb.
And Kyle O'Reilly's is that beautiful axe kick.
We almost get to the point that when we're watching a show live, we will down a drink for a Blue Thunder Bomb.
Yep.
Like it's just gotten to that point. But yes, so Zack Sabre Jr., Kyle O'Reilly, Zack Sabre picks it up. We do the whole thing with Orange Cassidy coming out to help Kyle O'Reilly. What is their team name? I've completely lost it.
The Mighty Don't Kneel.
Yes, Mighty Don't Kneel, MDK come out and they start fussing at Orange Cassidy, and Ishii shows up.
Which was one of the, I think there was another segment that gave me an equal pop. But that was one of the ones that really, really got me. We had 2 promo segments in the show. I think we might have gone past them, but that was one of those ones that really got me. When the music hit and Ishii comes out, he's one of those guys. Like maybe it's because I like wrestlers that look like me. I get really stoked on like big dudes with beer guts that can knock people's heads off their shoulders.
Yes.
It's why I love Joe. It's why I love Kevin Owens. It's why I love Eddie Kingston. Ishii coming down, and he is shorter than everybody in the ring, but they're all terrified of him because he is just built like a brick shithouse and is known for just taking people's heads off. And so for him to blast through and then side up next to Orange Cassidy, who's got his hands in his pockets, it's stupid, and I love it.
It's phenomenal, to say the least. And then in my notes, I don't have any promo segments. So
I'll roll to them. So Jericho, which I don't. If you're one of the people chanting "Please retire" at Chris Jericho at this point in time, during this learning tree gimmick, you have no understanding of what greatness is. Correct. I was probably with you up until a month or 2 ago. Like, I just love what because he's taken every criticism that people have had of him, and he's just like, well, cool, I'm just gonna throttle it to 6th gear, and I'm just gonna lean into all of it. And so he says they're setting up a 6-man between it would be himself. It was supposed to be him, Bill, and Brian Keith, but Brian Keith got his arm injured by Shibata. So they're supposed to be setting up the trios of those 3 versus Shibata, Hook, and Joe. So he says, "Well, I've always got I've always got friends I can reach out to," and he throws to the video board. And I turned to my wife and I said, "It's going to be Suzuki. I can feel it in my bones. It's going to be Suzuki." And it's Suzuki. But Suzuki throws a wrench into the mix. "No, Chris Jericho, I don't want to fight alongside of you. I don't like what you've become. I don't understand this whole teaching thing. I just want to fight you, and I want to chop your chest in." So now no longer do we have a 6-man. We're getting Jericho versus Minoru Suzuki at Forbidden Door.
Oh, I didn't see that coming because I just looked at the card and it didn't mention that.
So
that's great.
I don't know if they've announced it yet, but they were talking about it. I watched a little bit of Collision before we started recording, but Suzuki says, like, "I don't want to wrestle alongside of you on Sunday. I want to face you one-on-one." So I'm hoping that's on the card, and I'm not just, I don't know why they would do that, and not put it
Hey,
on the
we'll
card.
find out in a little bit
Or
when I scroll
maybe
down
it's or
further in
maybe
my
it's
notes.
next Wednesday. Who knows? But we're getting Jericho versus Suzuki, which I'm so on board with.
Which I don't believe that's the first time. I don't think it's the first time in AEW.
They have touched, but I think they have been as part of like six mans and stuff like that, tag matches. As far as I remember, this is the first, at least in recent memory, this is the first time they've gone one on one.
Okay.
The other
Um,
promo segment, we had the Acclaimed coming out, which they have been feuding with the Young Bucks, and I'm loving it. Um, the Bucks,
I pushed
obviously.
the wrong button.
Oh
Ah,
no, bitch!
bitch.
So they come out, they're calling the Young Bucks out, and it's like, obviously Okada's going to be the third man for the Elite. And it seemed like, to me, it felt kind of obvious, like, oh well, then Billy Gunn's going to be the third man. Like, no, we've got somebody for this. We cut to a promo package. We're getting the team that they're calling Scissor Ace because we're getting
Yes.
Hiroshi Tanahashi teaming with the
Yes.
Acclaimed.
Okay.
So
Get behind
Tanahashi
that.
and the Acclaimed versus the Bucks is also on Forbidden Door, and this is why I think this is my favorite time, or one of my favorite times of the year. Because like, if you'd have told me 2 months ago we're getting the Acclaimed teaming with High Fly Flow,
That's
I
nuts.
would have been like, no, we're not. That's
Yeah,
stupid.
there's
Why
no
would
way.
that? But when they
If you would have
announced
said
it,
that 5 years ago, we would have gone, "Who's the Acclaim?"
yeah, exactly.
Like,
But man, it's just Tony Khan is he just like Shawn Michaels right now. He is cooking.
oh yeah.
Scissor Ace versus the Elite is going to be ridiculous.
Oh yeah. And then the last thing that we have for Dynamite: Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay versus the Gates of Agony. Still to this day, I can respect the Gates of Agony. I have no idea who they are. It's a
We
Samoan guy and some other dude.
So Toa Leona, the big guy, we were at the Dynamite where he faced Hangman, and I was really impressed with him.
Yes.
But
No,
he's
like I said, they're great workers.
he's like their thing is just they're kind of ultimately forgettable because of where they have been put as being like the heavies for a faction that was losing a lot. So they're supposed to be these unstoppable badasses, but they keep getting stopped. So it just kind of puts them in that weird spot of like they look good, they're really fun to watch, but they're ultimately kind of forgettable. This just kind of felt like they slapped together this tag match so they could literally have the moment at the end where Osprey takes I'll go ahead and just use our one per episode, an absolute motherfucker of a kick to the head.
Dude.
It was nasty.
G13, we get one F bomb. That's
You
our
get
F bomb.
one. It's Deadpool rules.
Yes.
So I mean, just he took that kick like a champ, but it was nasty. And it was the house call. He swings that foot back, and
Yeah.
I think that connected 100%. But this story they're trying to tell of Swerve saying that Osprey is not taking this seriously enough. I don't know I still don't know like what they're doing as far as Swerve just got turned mega babyface and now he's acting like a total heel. So I don't get quite
It
what they're doing with
was
him. I don't think he's
as
capable of being a babyface. I don't think he's good at it.
yeah.
But he's so
We'll
over
see.
they kind of had to.
From everything that I've seen of outside wrestling Swerve, I love Swerve's podcast. The
Yeah.
interviews that he does with guys, he seems like a genuinely nice guy. But in wrestling, I don't like, other than him being over with the whole, Swerve when you ride thing, like his music is the only thing that's over for him. Like, that's it. So
He
when
has the
he's a
entrance and he's
babyface
got some
going up
flippy
against
stuff.
one of the biggest baby faces in the company, you have one of two options. And unfortunately with televised wrestling, you kind of have that fact of you knew it was going to be a tag match the week before the show, and one has to turn on the other. And unfortunately, it was Will Ospreay taking a house call to the face. We can talk predictions later. We can. I mean, maybe depending on if we record it or not, we will be actually saying results and how we feel about it. We'll figure it out. But the way the night ended was House Call to Ospreay, AEW World Championship being held up by Swerve over Ospreay, and that's how the night ended for Dynamite. And then you fast forward to Friday. And SmackDown happens, and the ending of SmackDown was phenomenal. But we're going to kind of speed round this because I didn't watch too much of it. Unfortunately, my TV provider doesn't show SmackDown.
Lame.
So I kind of just
the only part of SmackDown that I watched was the Bloodline segment, which I think I've seen some people that have said like I don't buy Solo as like being like the guy to challenge Cody because he's not charismatic, and I've talked endlessly about how like that's the whole point is that he's not charismatic. He's not like this super entertaining. He is a mafia boss that is surrounded with killers.
Yep.
And this segment, man, like this proved it. He is the Tony Soprano of wrestling right now.
Running down the list, just super quick. Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton. It's close enough to Stratus.
It's Tiffy time. Get it right.
And Candice LeRae, women's Money in the Bank qualifying. Stratton wins it. Tiffy time it is going to happen. Like at this point, I don't have a list of all the contenders, but just based off of what I'm saying, Tiffy time has to happen at Money in the Bank.
It's either
we have to land on Tiffy in the Bank.
It has to be Tiffy or Chelsea Green.
It's got to be.
It's got to be one of those two because they're both like just screaming their way up the card.
We have, and then after that, we have LA Knight, Logan Paul, Santos Escobar, with LA Knight picking up the win. Yeah. Let me huck to you, just the whole 9 yards. That dates this episode.
People are going to listen to this back in like 2 years and be like, what?
Holy crap. Yes, LA Knight picks up the win. We'll see what happens.
Man, I really think that like if they were ever going to pull the trigger,
needs to qualify for Money in the Bank. I don't know if he is a SmackDown guy or a Raw guy.
I don't either.
We have one more person that needs to qualify. Personally, I'd love it to be a surprise guy.
Yeah,
I don't know who you would pull for that ladder match, but I'd love it to be a surprise.
Maybe who knows? Maybe they say it is a surprise entrant, and when the time comes, they say we're just waiting to find out who it is so we can say his name, and boom.
Say his name,
and he appears.
I believe in Joe Hendry. That's it. That's all we got.
That's all we got.
Freaking copyright. Third match was Davenport versus Naomi versus Indy Hartwell. We talked about Davenport earlier, but Naomi picks up the win, qualifying for Money in the Bank. Still accurate on the whole Tiffy time. I think Tiffy in the Bank is going to happen. And then after that, we didn't have a whole lot. We had some promo segments, but at the end of the night, we had the Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. Which, first off, let's talk. So we got Solo Sikoa coming in after Roman Reigns' whole thing, bringing in Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga and Solo have a match. They bring in Tonga Loa. And then we're sitting there and we're going, well, that's it. That's your three guys. You've got Solo, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. Then you have Roman, Jay, and Jimmy. And you've got your 3v3. That's all you need. And then they turn around and bring in the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu.
Jacob Fatu and the Gorillas of Destiny being part of the Bloodline. This feels like my creator wrestler shit in like 2K20.
I will not do this, but I'm going to say, whoever fantasy booked it, I will pay you. Because this is a fantasy booking come true.
This literally, this was my universe mode. Like,
we never saw Solo Sikoa getting signed in the first place.
No.
And then he gets signed to NXT, does a decent job and then gets rushed to the main roster because of the whole bloodline feud. I didn't mind it. Yes, there could have been a few more shenanigans or whatnot, but he more or less got rushed to the main roster. But as the enforcer, as the silent guy that just took people out, phenomenal. It worked great. Then Roman goes away. Solo needs to step up. He doesn't have the charisma, but as you said, is the mafia boss. He's the guy just going pointing and attacking.
He is surrounded by killers, man. Like I've watched God go to absolute war in Japan. I've watched Jacob Fatu. He was on the first Circle 6 card. He was in a death match, I want to say, against Schlack. Like,
yep,
that's a dude you don't screw with. You have those three guys
here, so we're going to be ranting about a little bit of deathmatch. Circle 6 is just an indie promotion that does deathmatch wrestling with glass, light tubes, all the whole 9 yards. We may go on a rant about them at some point every now and then, but
it'll happen.
When we talk indie wrestling and we watch a show, we're going to talk about them. But until then, he was on a Circle 6 show.
With Schlack, who is one of the scariest human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Correct.
But like the fact that we have, and because like he has a criminal record, and that was one of those things that it was talked about for years. You would not see Jacob Fatu in the WWE because he has a criminal record. So him popping up, because like I heard, you heard the rumors on the dirt sheets that like, oh well, he's quietly signed. I was like, no, he isn't.
Yeah.
There's no way.
No.
And when he showed up, I was blown away. And then for them to do what they just did in this acknowledgement ceremony, Guerrillas of Destiny and Jacob Fatu powerbombed Paul Heyman.
Which, dude,
through the announce table.
All the props to Paul Heyman. I've been a Paul Heyman guy since Paul E. Dangerously, and I wasn't even alive when Paul E. Dangerously was going on. Like, I fell in love with Paul Heyman when I went back and watched ECW. Of course, I'm a young guy. I didn't start watching wrestling until 2011 when the whole Money in the Bank with CM Punk and John Cena happened.
Yep.
CM Punk gets plugged into Paul Heyman as a manager when he comes back, and they do that whole shtick. And I find out who Paul Heyman is. I go back and watch ECW, watch shoot promos, find out about Paul E. Dangerously, all the whole 9 yards. When it comes to me cutting promos and me speaking, Paul Heyman is the top guy for me. Right below him is MJF, but right above him is Paul Heyman, and his dedication to the whole business. First off, he didn't sleep last night or the night before. He purposefully stayed up so that he could look the distraught figure that he looked. His eyes were bloodshot. It looked like he was about to cry at any moment. And he didn't shave.
Yeah, he hasn't shaved in 2-3 days.
Shadow was coming in. And
he
then
looked
just
homeless.
so that he could look deranged enough that like Solo Sikoa is in his head. And then for him to turn around and go, "You are not my tribal chief." Just that moment of him screaming like, "Solo, I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief."
He set it up perfectly too, because he says, "Solo, I love you, and I acknowledge," and he pauses that you are not,
and unfolds the beads, and then takes the mic and goes, "You are not my tribal chief." Phenomenal.
Samoan Spike, which unpopular opinion, stupidest finisher in wrestling right now.
I don't know if it's unpopular. I don't know if that's an unpopular.
The like, look, if he did the same exact maneuver, but he tucked the thumb in and just hammer fisted you,
absolutely, like a heart.
I'm thinking devastating. But he has to tape his thumb up so he can hit you with the Samoan pointy thumb. It just looks stupid. Look, we peel back that curtain a little bit. We know that this is something that is discussed at least a little bit beforehand. I wouldn't. I'm never going to use the F word. We don't use the F word in this on this show. But if you know, you know. Why would anybody agree to be like, "Oh yeah, you hit me with your thumb twice, and I'll just go ahead and lay down"? No. You're going to have to kill me. Like, you're going to have to hit those enough that it actually knocks me out. Absolutely. So he hits the Samoan pointy thumb. of
and
death.
then rolls him out, and something that I never thought I'd see out of late 60s. I don't know how old
I
Paul
never
Heyman is.
thought in 2024 we would see Paul Heyman take what was essentially the Shield power bomb through the announce table.
Correct.
It was nasty looking,
It
man.
was
It was
nasty
rough.
because it is someone that hasn't taken a bump in years.
Yeah, he didn't tuck. He did like that was somebody who was not taking a power bomb, taking a power bomb, and it looked like it.
Yeah, dude, it's nuts. It is nuts.
Wrestling. To just a quick aside, the tribalism in wrestling is total BS to me. We're in a time frame where the WWE is killing it, AEW is killing it, TNA is killing it, the independents. There is
And
fantastic wrestling all over the independents. New Japan has got some good stuff going on. We have never lived in a better time to be a wrestling fan.
WWE has great stuff. AEW has great stuff. New Japan, the Indies, Louisiana. Like, if I can promote my own stuff for a second, I'm a Louisiana guy. You know, like it's what a time to be a wrestling fan. And of course, everyone has their highs and lows. So if you watch an AEW show and you're not happy with it, give it a month.
Mm-hmm.
Like, give it a month and watch. And if you're not happy after that month, give it a couple months off. And then by the time you get back to it, I'm sure they're going to be putting on some bangers.
I mean,
I go back and forth between AEW and WWE still to this day. And I'm a guy that watches the business.
I've heard the comment be made a lot of times. Nobody does pay per view like Tony Khan, and their last pay per view I think solidified that. Whereas to like the second segment on the card was the like everybody, no one quite knew if we were going to get the return of MJF or not. There was a lot of rumors he was going to be at the Rumble. Maybe he pops up at Mania. He's a Cody Rhodes guy. Maybe
Right.
him popping up, cutting that promo, like just get it. Just that return was unfreaking real. And that was like 20 minutes into the card, and the show did not slow down.
It didn't. It didn't slow down until like pre-main,
I was to say pre-main, the Mercedes Moné Willow
which
Nightingale match kind of slowed down,
we
but
can rant about that on another episode.
we'll definitely rant about that another episode. I love
Um,
Willow, and I have loved Sasha Banks. I really just want to see Mercedes click back into that gear again. She's
yeah,
not there right now.
and I just think I think she needs a few more reps.
Yeah.
I loved Sasha Banks when she was in WWE. I loved Mercedes when she was coming out of WWE and did it, and then she got injured. And yeah, she's been training nonstop, and she's a phenomenal worker. She understands the psychology and everything, but it's just not clicking for me.
Whoever let her believe that finisher that she's doing right now is a good idea should be drug out and shot. If she couldn't hit it on Kairi Sane in the Tokyo Dome, which it's this like backpack thing where she butterflies them, spins around into what's supposed to be like a stunner.
It's like a
If you
40
can't,
bomb flatliner.
yeah,
Like,
it
it's
is a
strange.
weird. If you can't hit it on Kairi Sane, who weighs like 25 pounds and is like 3 feet tall,
Yeah.
and then she's trying to do it on Willow Nightingale, who's is a thicker woman,
Yep.
and it looks like trash. Like every time she does it, it looks terrible. So it's like, what was wrong with the backstabber into the bank statement? It was
I
a
just
perfect signature finisher combo because she'd rock him with the knees to the back, and then naturally
and
you're
then just
going to
flip 'em
flip
over.
backwards. So she
Right.
just rolls you right through and
Well, and she
pulls your
still does
neck.
it. That's the
Yeah,
thing. Like, she still does it. She just doesn't finish with it anymore.
just go
So
back
in a
to
sense, we're
that.
making it the Blue Thunder Bomb, but we haven't quite confirmed. But like, I don't know, man. Just rounding off the week, AEW Rampage. From what I'm seeing, I personally haven't seen anything that's
Rampage matches, and I'm an AEW guy through and through. Rampage is a lot of the times the one that's like, if we don't have anything else going on, we put Rampage on. Or if I find out a match was like a real banger,
yeah,
I'll go back and watch Rampage.
right.
But that's one I almost never watch live.
We had a last person qualifying for the TNT title or championship ladder match. El Phantasmo qualified.
Which I think is like the one out of company guy in that ladder match.
Right. Yeah, I think they realized that we don't have an out of company guy, and the whole point of this pay per view is out of company, so we just threw a guy in. A match that I'm seeing that I may want to go back and watch is Shingo Takagi versus Dalton Castle.
Oh, what?
So
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna
I'm
watch that
probably gonna
tomorrow.
have to go back and watch that. Maybe we watch that pre Forbidden Door.
About to say, come over early. We'll watch that
Yeah.
because Dalton
And
Castle's the
then
man.
and then we have Collision that's happening probably as we speak. Actually, at this rate, it's so late that it's
I
probably
think it's
already happened.
over. I walked out before we
Um,
recorded to Tony Storm promo, so that's why I sat out there for a minute or two.
just running down Orange Cassidy and Ishii versus TMDK happened. Um, probably had a showcase of Stephanie Vaquer versus Lady Frost, just showing off Steph.
I watched part of
Um,
that one, and I mean, Stephanie Vacure looks like she's the real deal. I mean, I don't think she would be CMLL Women's Champion, without
absolutely
New Japan Strong Champion, without,
right. And then we had Daniel Garcia versus the Butcher, just showing off Garcia going into his match against Will Ospreay, whether Ospreay holds both titles or not. That is the match happening next week. We have all 6 members of the TNT title match in a 3v3 match. And then we had the Owen Hart's Cup.
the
I
Owen
can speak.
Carhart, the Owen Carhart.
Women's side of things, quarterfinal, Sheeta versus Perazo. I mean, I don't have results here, but if I had to guess, they're pushing Perazo pretty hard right
I mean, yeah, Deanna's kind of on the warpath right now, and I'm here for it, man. I'm a big fan of Deanna Purrazzo, and I'm sure her versus Sheeta is going to be awesome because both of those women are just on another level.
now. Right. Well, Dylan, we are now coming to predictions.
My favorite.
We have, as of the end of Wednesday's Dynamite, the match card for Forbidden Door, which, as we're recording this, may turn into actual things. We'll see how things edit out and how mindly cognitive we are after the show tomorrow night.
What
And
state of
so,
mind we're in, shall we say?
correct. That is a good way to say it. But I don't know if opening the show or what. But we have Chris Statlander and Momo Watanabe versus Willow Nightingale and Tam Nakata. I personally don't recognize Watanabe and Nakano, but I'm sure they're Stardom girls that
Yeah.
are phenomenal. If I had to guess, probably Chris picking up the win to push the whole Willow feud.
I think so. I think what Statlander's been doing right now, like just this heel turn for her has been perfect, and I think like this is the time to kind of get that statement win, even if it is on the pre-show.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. And then we talked about it earlier, and this is as of Wednesday's Dynamite. But Jericho, Big Bill, and Jeff Cobb
Okay.
versus Hook, Samoa Joe, and Shibata.
So if that is the match that we get, I don't see why you wouldn't have Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata win this thing
Yeah, let's
because
get the
like
big babyface pop.
you've got a team full of killers, man. Like
Absolutely.
and the segments with Samoa Joe and Hook, like even down to just like as they're walking up to assault people, like the conversations they're having crack me up. Like Joe had the whole like, "You New Yorkers talk too much. You always talk about like my place is next to the best coffee spot, the best pizza slice. I'm telling everybody it's the worst in town, so my prices stay cheap and everybody leaves me the hell alone." And I'm like, this. It feels like Pulp Fiction. They're driving to go commit the murder, and they're talking about the Royale with cheese. Like it's just like to me, it's on that level. What they're doing's great. You got a team of killers. Why wouldn't they win?
Next we have the Elite, the Young Bucks, and Nicholas and Matthew Jackson, and Kazuchika Okada versus the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi. The Scissor Ace.
Scissor Ace.
Do you think they take it?
So I'm gonna say no, but I've got a reason.
Okay.
So they had an eliminator match for the tag titles, and the Acclaim got the win.
Okay.
I think maybe this is their kind of 2 out of 3 because I think they take the loss to the Bucks here, and then they're the ones to take back the tag titles
I can see it.
on their
I
next
was
showing.
I was just
Because
about to say.
with them beating the Young Bucks clean in that eliminator, I think that was like a huge moment. And I think this is like that might be the kind of slap in the face to kind of you've seen the Acclaimed get more serious. Before that last promo segment, they didn't do the rap. The one before it, they went to do the rap, and Okada kind of cut them off. I could
Still one of
see
my
this
favorite moments in
being,
wrestling.
I could see this being one of those like they get the win to take the loss to get the bigger win
Yeah.
to make the
And
moment bigger.
and I think Tanahashi's at a point in his career that he can take a loss. Like
Yeah,
Tanahashi is one of the greatest of all time when it comes to Japanese wrestling, and I think he is in because Okada is in, but also at the same time, like he can take a loss without hurting himself too much.
yeah.
Sure, would I have loved Shota or any of the up and coming guys in New Japan to tag along with the Acclaimed who are up and coming guys? Sure, but Tanahashi can take a loss. Therefore, that's what swerves me to the side of the Elite picking up.
I mean, you think about just like on name value alone, man. Like putting Tana with the Acclaimed, I think is a really cool thing to do.
Yeah,
But I do ultimately think that they lose. Now, would I be happy if they win? Of course, but I think they lose, and I think they get it back for the tag titles
yeah, for sure.
because the Acclaimed like they hit a weird point where they're kind of stagnant, and they're getting really hot again, and that like what they're doing is interesting. They didn't know what to do with them with the trios championships. Like it just didn't work out.
Didn't have a whole lot of trios to work out with.
Right. You
Versus
know.
tag teams, you can split up trios into tag teams.
Yep.
Um, it
Just
works.
New Day rule it. Freebird
Yeah,
rule it.
absolutely. MJF versus Hechicero. This is an MJF squash match. It's not going to be a squash match, but
No,
you
it's going
needed
to
a
be a
match to
great
have
match.
MJF go over. I'm not familiar with Hechicero. Did we watch Hechicero
So
in person?
Hechicero was there as part of one of those. I think it was the 8-man tag
Okay,
on
okay.
Rampage.
Okay.
Which
I just if I saw his mask, then I probably know who he was.
so he had like the entrance where he had like the ball of
Okay,
fire or
okay,
whatever.
okay.
But he was part of that 8-man tag that they put on Rampage, which I called the backbreaker match because I think it was like Daddy Magic hits a backbreaker, the crowd pops, and then
Yes.
Cool Hand comes in and says, "Who wants a backbreaker?" and he hits it. So then they get the whole crowd chanting for backbreakers,
It
and it
was
was
it
just
was
one
a
of
good
those
time.
like it was a really fun, like kind of
Yeah.
silly like.
Hey, and it may have been under commercial break. We didn't care.
I think I
It
watched
was
it back, and I think it might have been during a commercial break, but you could see it in the picture that like Seidel was the last one to do it, and you could tell it was kind of like he didn't want to do it, but the whole crowd is chanting "backbreaker,
yeah.
back." So he
It was
kind of you see him like look left and right and just shrug his shoulders and hit the backbreaker.
Yep.
But
That's
yeah, Hechicero, he had like the Saturday after he had a match with Danielson that was I hear fantastic. I was sick as a
okay.
dog and couldn't watch it, but and I forgot to rewatch it after. But he's from what I've seen, he's really solid, and he's kind of like a power. He's a power guy. So I think him and MJF will have a really fun match.
We got the barn burner. Danielson versus Takagi.
That's the one when they said when Shingo's promo came on that he was that he was going to be on for the Owen. I remember texting you and I was just like, I feel like the only match he could be here to have is Danielson.
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
Danielson's on that tour of I think he said All In Wembley might is his last like he wants to make one more push before he quits
Yeah.
as a
And
full time wrestler.
plan is I think his plan is to go for the title.
I mean, why
Like he's
wouldn't it
trying to
be?
do as much as he can, which I mean, Owen Hart gives you a shot, right?
The Owen Hart, yeah, the Owen gets you a shot at Wembley. Which when we
Yeah.
get to the main, I will. I told you earlier, I've got like 2 or 3 pay-per-views forward
Oh,
fantasy booked in my
oh
head for
yeah,
one
yeah,
of
yeah,
these.
yeah, yeah. I already know where you're going.
Yeah, so we'll get
Um,
to it.
Okay,
but
but yeah, I
Danielson wins in an
absolutely,
absolute war.
absolutely. I love Shingo.
Same.
Um, talking about the main Takagi versus Osprey, every time they touch is magic. In their junior heavyweights, in the G1, which still blows my mind that Shingo Takagi, the freaking massive dude that he was, registered as a junior heavyweight in New Japan. It tells you how solid and strict they are about their 100 kilos or 205 pounds
Hmm.
when it comes to heavyweight versus junior heavyweight. But besides the point, I think Danielson picks it up as well.
Yeah,
I
Danielson
think
has to win this match. Has to.
absolutely. Cassidy versus Saber.
Dude, this is one of those matches that it can go 100% either way, and I would be completely content with either outcome.
Absolutely.
I feel like Orange kind of has to win right now,
Yeah.
but if he loses to Zack Sabre Jr., I don't think it's like a momentum ruining loss. Like Zack Sabre Jr. is one of the best doing it right now.
Yeah. I think it if anything happens and we have shenanigans happen, I think Roddy comes out and messes with Cassidy. And that's what makes Cassidy lose. But other than that, I don't see AEW company man losing in this match. I think Cassidy takes it. I think Saber is in the point where he can kind of take it. TMDK is going on a pretty big push at this moment, and it's not in AEW, so they can kind of take the slight loss. But
Right.
we'll see. TNT Championship ladder. All six members are Kanasuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, El Phantasmo, Dante Martin, and Leo Rush. The only thing I have for this match is I hope Dante doesn't break his ankle again.
Dude, I know.
Like, there's not too many flippy dippy dudes.
So you Leo, Phantasmo, and Dante, and then you've got
Phantasmo dials it down though. Like
he
he's got
does
that
dial it
Japan
down.
flippy dippy.
Yeah, which is like strong style more so.
Right.
And then I mean Takeshita, Mark Briscoe is the true wild card in this match.
Yeah.
I think he is a true wild card, and I'm really excited for what he's going to do. And Jack Perry, I think, is there for the shenanigans because the whole thing with this TNT Championship was the Bucks wanted to just put it on him,
Yep.
and Christopher Daniels wouldn't allow it to happen.
Right.
So I feel like they find a way.
For sure.
So I think it's either going to be Jack Perry or Takeshita.
Um. Yeah, man. I can see Takeshita because of the whole Don Callis family.
Mm-hmm.
Perry because of the elite. I don't think they're going to put it on Mark because he's doing a solid Ring of Honor run right now.
Well, I mean,
Um,
he is if we're gonna toss it back there, he's got experience in ladder war,
right.
so maybe that's the X factor.
I
But
mean, yeah, but I mean, they're not going to put it on Dante.
no,
Leo isn't been in the company for that long, and El Fantasmo is not in the company. He's New Japan. So I
if they
think
give it to Leo, he might just retire again. I mean, who knows?
ranking it, I would put Jack Perry at top because you need that big heel heat. And then I'd put Takeshita and then Mark.
Yep, same.
So we'll see what happens. Mercedes Monet, Stephanie Vicaire, TBS, and New Japan Strong Women's Championships.
So the fact that the New Japan Strong Championship is on the line tells me that there's only one possible outcome for this match, and that is that Mercedes gets back the belt that she was robbed of or whatever because her ankle couldn't hold up.
Honestly, I would say that just because the TBS Championship is on the line. I wouldn't say it if it was just the New Japan Strong. I wouldn't know.
I could see Tony giving Stephanie Vakura like a run with the TBS
Just to try to like solidify
because
Monet.
they've been really working with CMLL and they've brought a bunch. They've
Yeah.
had CMLL talent be regulars. I could see it happening, but the whole crux of like when Mercedes beat Willow was the like, well, you broke my ankle and this and that. And So it's just the whole thing seems like it's all just one big like revenge tour for her. I
I
hope this
mean,
match is great because Stephanie Vicura seems like she's the real deal. And I
and
think
she's massive.
like like we've talked about, Mercedes can be really good. She just hasn't clicked into it in a while.
Well, and I think with Monet training as much as, or with formerly known as Callisto, now known as Del Sol.
Yeah, I forget.
I don't know his new name. Formerly known as Callisto in WWE, but training with all of these lucha guys, I think bringing in a lucha style match for championships not known for their lucha style, like New
Yeah,
Japan Strong, kind of strictly Japanese style. TBS has been strictly American style, especially because your last two champions have been Julia Hart. Excuse me, last three champions have been Willow Nightingale, Julia Hart, and Jade Cargill.
yeah.
Maybe.
No, wait.
No, I'm sorry. Chris Statlander, fourth championship was Jade
Yep,
Cargill.
yep.
Um, I think bringing a lucha style match into this, as long as they do the spots right, um, could be a solid match.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I think it could be a real fun match. It could. It's one of those that like it could be really good or really bad, and I'm hoping that it's really good.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, oh, who you taking?
Like I think I kind of hinted at it. I think it's Mercedes. I
Yes,
don't
got
see a world in which she doesn't win this match.
it's got.
CEO or whatever. That doesn't work
John
for you, sister.
Moxley versus Tetsuya Naito. Dude, this so
Banger alert.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Moxley beat Naito to win the IWGP Championship.
I am pretty sure you're right.
Yes, and I think he won it in Chicago or something like.
Yeah,
Windy
I think it
City
was at like
Riot.
Windy City Riot.
Yes, which let's be real, we're pretty sure that Naito's coming down on his retirement tour, like
Yeah.
or slowing down at the very least.
Oh, he's definitely being
Um,
tranquilo about it all.
dude. But when he goes out there, he puts it all out there. Like that's still what mind boggles me is like, John Moxley will go out and tomorrow and put on a death match if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Tetsuya Naito will go an hour as if he's in the Tokyo Dome trying to get an 8-star match. And it could be 20 minutes on television.
Yeah.
It's gonna be solid. I'm torn, dude.
I feel like Moxley retains because I just don't think they're done with him as New Japan champion yet.
I can agree. Of course, I think having Naito take it off an American guy on I don't think it's gonna happen on an AEW television.
No, I
I
think
think
that
if
you
it's gonna
saved that for
happen,
Japan.
It's gonna be the same match and it's gonna be somewhere in Japan.
Because
But
especially if he is like we think he's kind of on that like winding down the career tour, give him another big moment in Japan.
right. But I think if anyone takes it off of Moxley, it's gotta be one of these up and coming guys in New Japan.
I personally like if Shota takes it off of him, you've gone totally full circle.
Absolutely.
From
I don't think
Shota
it's gonna
being
happen.
like the young boy that he carried to he like knocked out and then carried to the back like
Yeah.
in that like it was people were memeing it like he was gonna take him home like he was his pet to Shota becoming one of the big stars in New Japan right now, like coming back off excursion and really, really finding a spot.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like Shota do it. That'd be full circle, but I don't think it'll happen.
So the last see now I'm drawing a blank. LIJ member. Bigger set guy, not Shingo Takagi. One of the new guys that's come up with Shota. He won the G1.
Oh, come on.
I see. I couldn't tell you, and that tells you how interested I'm into wrestling. And we're gonna sit here for an hour and a half on the podcast. If there's a jump cut, it's because we're sitting here trying to figure out what's going on. But he was the latest of that quote unquote generation
Yeah.
that's coming up to challenge for the IWGP title. And from what I remember, I didn't get to watch the match. I'm sure it was good. But it was Naito versus him. And I couldn't tell you how the match went, but that's the last up and coming star of New Japan that is challenged for the IWGP Championship. I can easily see it being Shota, at least challenging Mox, because like you said, it'd be at least full circle. But
Yota Tsuji.
See, I knew it was.
He won the New Japan Cup.
Yes. But he's a phenomenal worker.
Yes.
I remember when he was a young boy in the pandemic, running the G1 because they had no one else to run the G1.
Yeah.
Because
they couldn't bring in the Gaijin talent, so they were just throwing whoever they had to fill out the numbers.
Correct. Which was nuts because that was really the first year that you had young lions, super juniors, and heavyweights all in the same G1. And now they went like, oh, that was successful. Maybe we should push that a little bit more this time.
Let's do it again.
So I say we're taking Mox. I don't see Naito winning it. You take Mox as well. We talked on this when we talked about Dynamite. Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. It's going to be the horniest match in AEW history.
I'll tell you who wins. The fans. We all win for this one.
Here's what I say. I think Mariah May wins it.
Yeah, because she picks them both. So she's doing the Mac from It's Always Sunny. I pick both sides, so I can't lose.
I see a Mariah May turn.
I
don't know on who, but it's got to be somebody.
Well, we had the moment on Dynamite where Mina takes the champagne bottle, attempts to hit Tony. Tony ducks it, and Mariah takes the bottle, and she left with Tony. So I could see it being a situation where maybe Tony retains and Mariah sides with Mina. I could see this going 10 different ways, and all of them would be entertaining.
I love everything they are doing with Storm and Mariah, especially with Mariah coming out as Storm's old gimmick.
Yes.
When she came out for the first time, I about lost it because I thought Tony went back to her old gear and her old gimmick, and she didn't.
I remember that. That was a fun night.
I just don't know how much more you can run it. Yes, they're doing great. Yes, I love everything that they're doing with it. But how many times... This is the perfect time. This is the only time that you have ever teased that Mariah May could possibly turn on Tony. Why wouldn't you just pull the trigger right here and now and have Mariah May face for the women's title against Toni Storm at whatever they're going for if they push it to Wembley?
If they do it, I would say, and don't hotshot this one, sow the seeds on Forbidden Door night. Tony wins with something underhanded and Mariah's conflicted about it.
Yeah.
And take a couple weeks and really just kind of keep driving that wedge, because that is a Wembley match, dude. That's a Wembley match.
Just remembered, as I said, going to Wembley, Mariah May is in the Owen Hart Classic. So we could really be setting up Mariah May versus Toni Storm in Wembley.
Yep.
Whether a big turn happens at Forbidden Door or a small thing like you mentioned, hey, underhanded tactic on a friend, even though, yes, she hit me with a glass bottle, but she's still a friend of mine. You use underhanded tactics. How dare you? We'll see, man. But
there's a lot of ways they can do it, but I'm taking Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see women's title going on a Stardom Star as much as Shirakawa is phenomenal.
And I hope she hangs around. I hope they keep her in the company and she does more because, we want Mina. I'm behind the hashtag. She's been great.
But, Forbidden Door main event.
Oh, man, here we go.
Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay, AEW World Championship. Before we start fantasy booking or anything, who takes it?
My heart... And my soul says Will Ospreay, but my head says that Swerve's going to retain. I could fantasy book out, but like I think
I
the right move, at least in my mind, the right move is Ospreay. But it's also like Swerve doesn't scream transitional champion. Like I don't know. This was a bold booking strategy by Tony to make this happen. But I'm gonna just I'm going hard and I'm saying Will Ospreay.
one heart and saying Osprey. Look, I've been an Osprey mark since day one, since Jimmy Havoc versus Will Osprey.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can still say his name. If not, then we'll redact it. Um, but I have gear designed off of Will Osprey. My friends in wrestling call me an Osprey mark. I am a Will Osprey fan through and through.
The Beheader 2 looks a lot like the Hidden Blade.
I don't know what you're talking about.
They look like similar moves. That's all I'm
I'll
saying.
wear an elbow pad.
Because you don't want to do what Osprey did to Kota Ibushi and knock somebody clear out.
We'll see. It may come to that eventually. But that's like, as much as I love Will, I don't see Will winning it. I think Swerve's going to take it.
See, so what gets my wheels spinning is right now you've got MJF going after Will. You've got I literally just saw this promo before we hit record, but it was a video package and it looks like Hangman, and he's flashing back. He's walking through his house, flashing back like Swerve breaking into the house, and you see like Hangman pouring the whiskey and he's walking kind of erratic. I could see the Young Bucks have teased a wild card for the TBS or for the Owen Hart. I could see maybe that's where you go. Like maybe that is the Swerve retains. You got Hangman Swerve in Wembley. But I'm also thinking like if Danielson's on this run, right? Danielson is on. That is going to be what he has said. That's going to be his last match as a full-time wrestler was at Wembley Stadium. Think of how crazy the crowd would be for Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson in essentially like not a retirement match, but a retirement match.
Correct.
I think
in a match that's never happened.
In a match that's never happened in Ospreay's home country, like where he is. I mean, like that last Wembley show, man. That match he had with Jericho, like the building was shaking.
Correct.
I mean, this is a homegrown UK guy.
As much as I hate to say it, this main event is a coin toss. When it comes to not just booking, but your actual winner. Like, you have Will Ospreay, who is undefeated in AEW, may possibly take his first loss to Swerve Strickland, which sure, if you want to pull the card that he could be legitimized, so be it.
I hate that argument so much.
We will not get on the subject of being legit.
If you have to be legitimized, you shouldn't be the number one guy in the company.
I completely agree, but here we are. But at the same time, Swerve Strickland is that guy. And I think whether you go with Swerve Strickland versus Hangman as a wild card and Owen Hart, or you go Swerve Strickland and Bryan Danielson, as much as I hate to say it with the feud that they're going with, Will Ospreay versus MJF would blow the roof off of Wembley.
With or without the title on the line, Will Ospreay versus MJF is money.
Correct.
There
is not another pay-per-view before Wembley.
I don't think it's a situation where, man, I don't think they could really ruin this, but there is a lot of me going like, I don't know why we're doing this way. But I'm kind of just, now that we're sitting and talking about it, I'm thinking like if Will Ospreay does take the loss at Forbidden Door to Swerve, who has been doing the whole you're not taking this seriously, you think this is all fun and games, and he takes that loss and we see Osprey click into that seventh gear, like
Yeah,
just really push this thing over the top, and then the first person that he's facing on pay-per-view is MJF.
correct.
I
It's gonna be
think we
nuts.
see an absolute war in Wembley.
Absolutely.
So again, Hart is saying Will Ospreay, Head is saying Swerve retains and maybe faces Hangman in Wembley, which I won't be mad at either. That
We will see.
Texas Death was one of my favorite matches.
Oh, dude, and I mean, even just a normal singles match between the two of them is
They
gonna
could
be
they could
freaking
do
phenomenal.
anything with those two.
It's gonna be nuts. But Dylan, that is the recap of the week.
I think so. I think we got it all.
But yes, that went way long. At this point, we are doing a podcast that we have no set length to, so it's fine. Um, what we are thinking, or what I am thinking at this moment in time, is typically we would be going to a watch along, where I pull up a match, whether it's my career or just an old match that we'd love to go back and watch. We pull it up, we watch from a big fan and someone in the business to see if we can't set up a little something and just make comments every now and then. But essentially, just shine a brighter light on either obscure wrestling or independent promotions, and just let them be known and let them be seen on who they are. This week, we're not going to do that, but next week, we're going to be opening up with one of my top matches of my career. In a wrestling promotion in Pensacola, Florida, Alex Braddock versus Simon Phillips. Spoiler alert, I'll go ahead and say I pick up the loss. But it is still one of my greatest matches of my career because Simon Phillips is a phenomenal worker. I will work him any day of the week. But we will be watching that next week. But for tonight, you can find me on social medias at Alex Braddock or at the Alex Braddock. We'll have links down in the description. When it comes to Victory Roll, you can find us on our YouTubes, our Spotify's, Apple Podcasts. And I will go ahead and plug, if it wasn't obvious by the massive bookshelf behind me, I'm a massive board game nerd. So I will be posting what I am calling Victory Roll games. So it may be a little confusing. We'll have Victory Roll Wrestling Podcast, and then on the sidebar, we'll have Victory Roll Games, trying to keep it all in branding. Where you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, posting just little snippets of board game videos, trying to share the world on what board games is. Dylan, what do you have?
So I am part of a podcast called Action Figure Weekly. Also, we are on Spotify, iTunes, all that. Most of the time, we're talking about anything from like Disney Lorcana, wrestling action figures, just whatever we're collecting at the moment. And it just kind of it's one of those podcasts. We just let it be what it is. Sometimes it's very figure focused. Sometimes we end up talking about SEC football for 20 minutes. It's just kind of one of those things we do. We're also getting ready to start up over the next, I think, 6 months or so. We're going to be doing a figure fed fantasy booking podcast, which I'm really excited for. So if you've listened to like Major Pods, FWF, it's going to be in that kind of vein. We're going to be fantasy booking based on the AEW roster. So it should be a good time.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you all for watching. I'm going to end the podcast the same way I started, whether it is a good morning, a good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, and y'all have a phenomenal, phenomenal day.